Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk to you about sleep school. I went to sleep school with Lenny ages ago. It was like 18 months ago, and I kind of wanted to talk about it because I know that there's sort of a misconception about sleep school, and I know that there's a lot of people out there who are really against sleep school. Other people love it. I personally didn't need to go to sleep school for my first daughter. She was awesome at sleeping. She was sleeping through from like 12 weeks. We didn't really have any issues with her. My second daughter, Lenny, I kind of created the monster myself. She wasn't very well when she was little. She had a lot of issues with her stomach, and so for her to get to sleep, I had to sleep like lying up like this. And she slept on my chest for the first few months. There's lots of people out there who are like, that's totally fine, that's just what you do because they're babies. For me, it wasn't okay. I wasn't coping at all with the first few months of Lenny's life. All she did was cry or scream, or she had to be on me the whole time. It was just so hard. I couldn't sleep myself. I wasn't coping. Basically, after the first couple of months, we worked out that she was dairy intolerant. So cow's milk dairy intolerant, I think, is the main thing. Anyway, so I cut out all dairy in my diet. I actually had to cut out most food in general, except for specific steamed vegetables and fruit. Just so that her stomach could repair from all the damage that had sort of been done, and then gradually build back in all those other gluten and all those sort of things. But dairy I couldn't have for the whole time I was breastfeeding her, basically. So it was really difficult, but after that first few months, when suddenly her stomach was feeling much better and she was a lot more content and settled, I just continued to sort of have her sleeping with me little bits. I personally don't enjoy sleeping next to a small child. I do have a fear that something's going to happen to them over the night. And also, I just like my space when I sleep. I cannot sleep properly if there's a little person there that's sort of kicking me, or I'm constantly worried about them. So I knew that I needed to get her into a cot. She went into a cot when she was about 3 or 4 months old, and that was, you can probably hear Billy in the background, that was when Billy turned 2 and then moved into a bed. So then Lenny then went into the cot, and it was what I expected. She got up every couple of hours and I would go in and I would feed her. Usually it would only be a couple of minutes feed, and then she'd go straight back to sleep. And while I was in that survival mode, I think my thought was, well, it's a couple of minutes and then she goes back to sleep for a few more hours. So overall, survival, that's just what you do. And she's just needing that comfort. But looking back on it now, I know that it was completely for comfort that she needed it. It wasn't actually for the feed. And it meant that I never got more than 2 hours sleep. And then obviously, being a mum, and I know there's so many people who would go through the same thing, I couldn't just fall back to sleep like that. I really had to wind myself back down again after feeding her. So I really wasn't having much sleep at all. And it just kind of was this cycle. I then went to the doctor in Melbourne. We've got a couple of sleep schools, I think. This one I went to, you need to go to the doctor first and get a referral and fill out all the forms and then go on the wait list, and the wait list is up to 13 weeks. So in my head I was like, well, that's 13 weeks of me to sort of try and get her sleeping better herself by myself, so I won't need to go to a place like this. But a spot miraculously appeared 2 weeks later. When it appeared, the guilt that I had, the anxiety, I just thought, I'm a terrible mother. I should be the one who's able to get my child to sleep and I can't. and what am I doing? She wakes up every 2 hours. Is that so bad? Surely there's other mothers out there who need this spot more than I would, and they should be having my place. Just the guilt that came with it. And then also the perception. I was actually quite embarrassed and didn't really want to talk about it with people that I was going to sleep school, because it's quite controversial for some people. Some people really believe that you should just be co-sleeping with your child, and if they wake up every half an hour, that's fine, and they're little, so that's just what they do. For me though, knowing that my older daughter loved going to sleep, she loved going to bed. She was the child who, if you couldn't find her, she had put herself to bed. Like, she loved bed. In the middle of the day, she put herself down for a nap, like, loved it. I have always had such a strict, hardcore routine with her, and I think that that's why she loves sleep so much. But Lenny, that had all gone out the window. It was just survival, do what I can do. But knowing that Billy was so settled and she was really thriving so well from having such a routine, I knew that Lenny would probably benefit from the same thing. I'm a very routine orientated person. Our house is quite routine orientated, so I knew that that's what I needed to get to. That's the point that I need to get to have her on a solid routine. I just struggled with starting it off, I suppose you could say. So I finally went, and it wasn't like I finally went, like I had chosen to go, but it's just really hard. And also some people are like, oh yeah, well, they just drug your baby. That's how they make them sleep, they just drug them. They drug you, they drug your baby, they let them scream for hours. That's not love. Like, and I was just thinking, that's child abuse. They wouldn't, anyway. But probably people out there would think that going to sleep school is child abuse. For me, anyway, not even close. But so I went there and I checked in, and there were 20 mothers staying there. So I got my own room, and then Lenny had her own room across from me, because she was 6 months at the time. So she had her own room across from me. We got told to bring specific things, like a t-shirt that we had been wearing that had our scent on it, a comforter, and the comforters were quite strict on it can't have any buttons on it, it can't have anything that they could choke on that could come off it, and sleeping bags and stuff like that. So we went. It's 5 nights that you go for, although I think that they've changed it recently to 4 nights because they also have weekend programs, but I went for 5 nights. And when you first go, the doctor comes around and she talks to you. And what I think is so amazing about this program is it is for mothers. Yes, it's definitely for the children, and yes, they get to sleep, and sleeping is when they do so much of their development. So yes, it's really for them, but for mothers, it is a break, and it is someone there to listen to you and who's been there, and it was just really comforting. And it was really comforting that it was it kind of revolved around your child. So the first thing that they do is, come in and they talk to you about how old your child is, how much weight they've gained since birth, are they on solid foods, are they not, are you breastfeeding, are you topping up with formula, are you just doing formula? Whatever works for you. There's no judgments with how you've been doing things, there's no judgments with how you feed your baby, there's no judgments with anything. They're just like, that's how you've chosen to do it, and they support that. And then they just go through the routine that they're going to do with your child, which is really strict, like super strict, as in at this time, if they wake up in the morning at this time, Lenny I think was on an hour and a half of awake time at that point. So if they wake up at 7:30 in the morning, or 7 o'clock in the morning, then 8:30 is their first nap. And it's super strict. But the first 2 days that I was there, they do everything. So you get a break. You get a break while you're there, which was just amazing, just what I needed. I just needed to be in a place where it was all about her routine, it was all about Lenny, it was all about me. I didn't have to cook, I didn't have to clean, I wasn't running after a toddler, I wasn't doing anything like that. It was just about her and me and getting her routine down, which was awesome, just what we needed. And then they also do lots of blood tests and stuff on the mum to make sure that we're healthy. And I have super low iron and all this kind of stuff, and they can pick all that up and then help. And if you need to be prescribed something, the doctors there do that for you. The doctors also prescribe you sleeping tablets for the first 2 nights. So they prescribe you 2, and you have to like go up to the desk with all the other mums and like wait in the line and then get your 2, and you have to have them right there in front of them, and then you can go to bed. The first night I just took 1 because I was a bit like anxious about it, I suppose. And you do it because Lenny has to have a dream feed. So I dream feed her, or rollover feed, or whatever you want to call it, at 10:30 or 11 at night, and then I have my 1 sleeping tablet and I went to bed, and they do all the settling throughout the night. If you had a younger baby, then they would wake you up and say you need to feed them now. I don't think that they take children from less than 3 months, but I think that they said 6 and 7 months. Oh, I think 6 to 9 months was a really good time to get in there, because they were old enough that they could do longer sleeps, and young enough that you could really get that routine into them. So the first night I went to sleep, and then I woke up the next morning at 7, and they were like, oh yeah, she only had to be settled like once or twice, which just made me even more, like made me understand even more that it was purely a little bit of comfort, and it's not a feed that she's needing overnight, because she's so capable of going through. So when they talk about grizzling versus crying, there is a very thin line. And I've been in childcare and I've got another child. I know that if she's crying, she's still okay. Like, I know that nothing is physically hurting her. I know that it is just out of habit that she might do that. So they say that, and they detail and they record everything. So they will literally say like 11:21 grizzle, 11:22 stopped, 11:23 grizzle. So they record everything. If your baby overnight, it was longer than in the day because day sleeps are obviously shorter. Overnight, they're allowed to grizzle for 20 minutes. And you can tell that they're grizzling because they kind of do a cry, but then they stop in between, like they have little gaps where they're obviously sort of listening out for something. And quite often after, because as a mother, especially when you've got like my husband and my other daughter, she would grizzle and I'd be like, quick, go get her, because I don't want her waking up everyone else. But she would grizzle for like 5 minutes and then she'd just fall back asleep herself, because I wasn't going and grabbing her and waking her up even more. She would just, you know, get herself comfortable again, or find her taggy or like her little comforter or whatever it was, and then she'd just fall back asleep. So it was, other babies were a little bit more persistent with wanting to sort of get picked up and all that sort of thing. But I was really lucky with Lenny. She settled. I think they said they went in like once or twice to settle, and they do like a specific little patting routine. They don't pick them up, they just pat them. And then it's so funny because when you do it, you can like feel them under your hands relax, like their whole body just relaxes. And then you don't pat them to sleep, but you pat them so that they're super sleepy again, and then they just fall off by themselves. They just go to sleep again. And so yeah, it was literally a couple of times the first night. The first 2 days, they do the settling throughout the day as well. So it means that mothers, we actually get a rest. If your child's sleeping there for the first couple of days while they're doing everything, they're like, you can go for a walk, go and have a coffee by yourself at a cafe, you know, do whatever you want. And then obviously there's 20 mothers there. So we could talk, we could all chat about what we've been through. Lots of mothers there had postnatal or postnatal depression or anxiety. Lots of them come from all over Victoria. Some people had driven 6 hours to be here. And it was so amazing, and it was so exceptional, and it was so wonderful to be able to have this connection with these mothers and support them just as much as they're supporting you, and really feel like, you know, we've all been through the ringer and we're here to get help. Some people were like me, where they're like, I didn't think I was bad enough to be here, but coming out on the other side, I'm just so thankful that I did it. So they even have a night, one of the nights is for the husbands or the partners or whoever that support person might be that lives with you. Nannies could go or anything like that. And they would go through the whole talk, because we had quite a few little talks about different things. And it would be, you know, they would go through the whole routine with the partner. So my husband went, and they went through the whole routine. And they also said, it's your job to go home now and black out the room, the baby's room. So Matt did that. He came home, and they suggest putting foil on all the windows, and even like the baby monitor light, he put blue tack on so that you couldn't even see like the little on light or whatever it is. So it's like a hardcore blackout, can't see anything kind of light. And so he did that. And I feel like generally the husbands were so supportive as well. Obviously, if baby's not sleeping and mum's not sleeping and mum's not coping, everything kind of falls apart, like especially if they're the primary carer. I wasn't coping, I wasn't coping. I couldn't look after my other daughter, let alone Lenny. And I'm so lucky that I've got some beautiful friends who helped me, but most men, you know, when I sort of spoke to Matt about it, he's like, do it. I don't care if it costs money. Private health insurance in Australia pays for it, so it was free, but obviously you have to have private health insurance. So he was like, just do it, you know, if it's gonna make you happy, if it's gonna get you back to where you need to be the mother you want to be and be the person you want to be, then go for it, do it. Yeah, and so after the first few nights, the second night I took 2 sleeping tablets, because I was like, meh, we're here. And it was my first like full night where I just like slept. So I was like, yeah, slept 4 months, because I had a bit of anxiety before I had Lenny and the pregnancy insomnia, so it had been like a year of not sleeping. So that was awesome. I slept, and then the next day it was up to me. They show me how they've been doing settling. They do adapt it slightly to all the children, so yes, it is a very routine patting that they do, but they couldn't do two-handed patting with Lenny because she'd be on her tummy and then she would just be like, hi guys, like hi. So they ended up just holding her gently with one hand and patting with the other, so that she wouldn't like, you know, and she'd look at you and she'd smile and she'd just have a little chat to you and stuff like that. So they sort of adapted it to work for her, but by the 3rd night she was sleeping through, so I actually didn't have to wake up. I didn't have to wake up to settle her. I didn't have to do anything. She kind of just did all of her sleeps from then on. It wasn't the case for every parent there. Some did take a little bit longer, but it was so crazy, because in the first of the 5 nights that we were there, you could hear babies crying everywhere, because obviously there's 20 mothers, and then someone had twins, and so there was a lot of babies crying. And by the last night it was silent. Everyone was sleeping, everyone was happy, they'd all been sticking to their routines, and it was just amazing. And all of us mothers could, you know, it was just like taking a breath of fresh air and just enjoying the moment, as opposed to everything before it and the sleep deprivation and all that sort of stuff. So it was so amazing. And then coming home is hard, because it is like 6 weeks of hardcore routine. You feel like you've got cabin fever there, because you have to do the exact routine at the exact time, and you've got to get back for it. But in my head I'm like, yes, I know it's really hard to do this routine, but if I do it, I know that I'm going to sleep tonight. I know she's going to sleep tonight. And in the end, you know, short term pain for long-term gain. So I stuck really hardcore to the routine. And then after about maybe 4 weeks, I started deviating a little bit from the day sleep. So I try and get her to sleep in the pram instead, but I still had to put the sleeping bag on her, just the travel one to go on the pram. And then that meant, oh, I can actually go out in the morning and she can sleep in the pram and I can go to the park with Billy and we can make it work. So eventually you started sort of changing things, or I'd push back her sleep half an hour so that we could get something done or do something. And now she is just a stellar sleeper. Like, I can't even tell you. She loves going to bed. We do the same routine every night with, like, they get fed and then they have a shower or a bath and then a bit of downtime. They might watch some TV or have a quiet play. And then I go in, put Lenny's sleeping bag on her. We read a story. Billy usually reads a story with us in there. Then she gives us all kisses goodnight, and it's so funny because, oh well, Billy she loves, so she'll kiss her 10 times and laugh hysterically at her. But with Matt and I, we have like a little routine of how we sort of kiss her goodnight and give her a cuddle, and you can tell she's kind of doing it just as fast as possible, because every time she gives you a little kiss and then she's like, bed, bed. And if you're not holding into it, will just fall out of your arms trying to get into her cot. Like, she loves going to bed. So I'm so thankful for that. Sometimes she does still have a little bit of a grizzle. It's never more than 5 minutes, and then she falls back to sleep. I don't remember the last time I went into her room. Couldn't tell you. It's been well over a year since I've had to go into her room in the nighttime. Like, it's amazing. And yes, she hasn't really been sick. I think maybe once she might have been sick and so I had to go in. But that was like early on. So it's probably been over a year since I've had to go. And I am clockwork. I count down till 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock, the girls are in Lenny's room. We're reading Lenny a story. It's not usually a long story. It's just enough to calm her down and keep with the routine. She goes to bed, and then I go into Billy's room with her and we read a much longer story with Billy because obviously she's 3. And then she goes to bed and both of them out. That's it. Billy will wake up once or twice a night to go to the toilet, but she's just as awesome at sleeping as Lenny is. And Lenny, I think she must be going through a growth spurt. Normally she sleeps 7 till 7, and at the moment she has been sleeping 7 till 8. So I think she's having a growth spurt because she's just all about it. But even today I was like, all right, we're gonna, sometimes in the day she might be like, I don't want to go to sleep. No. But then as soon as I say, okay, well, we're going to have a sleep and then afterwards we're going to wake up and go to the park, she's like, okay. And she'll just go off and she goes in there and takes her boots off and gets ready for bed. So awesome. I'm so thankful we went to sleep school. It has just made the world of difference to us. And I'm really proud of the fact that my girls are such awesome sleepers. Sleep and bed are my favourite things, so I really want it to be their favourite things. Also though, with Billy, we didn't do sleep school with her, but I was pretty strict about, you don't sleep in our bed. You've got your own bed, and that's your special bed with your toys, and you can sleep in there. And she loves her bed. So anyway, so that's it. That is my story of sleep school. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any other questions about how sleep school was for us or anything like that, please just leave a comment below. It was just so worth it for me. And I completely understand people who co-sleep or they do things with less of a routine or whatever it is, and you do what you've got to do and what you're comfortable with, and there's no judgment. Having a solid routine and having them sleep in their own beds is super important to me. It works for us as a family. So I'm all about it. So the routine is just super important to me. But if it's not important to you, then you do you, girl or boy or whoever's watching. So thank you so much, and please remember to subscribe, like and comment on any other videos that you want to see. Thanks so much. Bye.